Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Welcome to the PowerCat Podcast, GoPowerCat.com's Kansas State Athletics Show. Make sure you're subscribing to our show at Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, from the GPC studios, here's your host, GoPowerCat publisher, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to another edition of the PowerCat Questions Podcast. I am Tim Fitzgerald. Zach Carlson, Cole Carmody, and Ryan Gilbert has returned from the lake. He went to the lake in winter, and I don't mean to question what he's doing with his life, but when I think lake, I don't think winter landscape. Ooh, that was my throat. Oh.
Do you have a little alien inside of your throat?
There's a demon inside of me. I don't know. I don't mean to question you here there, Gills, but what was that about? Why are you going to the lake in winter?
If you want the real reason, my brother was visiting for Christmas from Washington, D.C., where he's going to law school, and Brandon gets very bored when we're just hanging around the house, so he wanted something to do, so we went to the lake, despite it being winter. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Not really, but yeah.
Sounds boring to me.
Better than sitting at a house.
Let's go sit around at a house, but this time it's in a different place.
Is it possible, Coles, that Gills had a body to get rid of?
I think that's very possible.
Don't tell him.
Is that a...
Especially considering his manager got mad at him at work the other day.
Oh.
Water is wet.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. We're sponsored by The Fridge. They have wet things like water there, except they're alcohol, and it's delicious. Get into The Fridge whenever you come to Manhattan at the corner of this and that in the town in which we live. And, of course, our segment sponsors are Tanner's and the High-Low. I miss Tanner's. Cole and I went to Tanner's to watch, what did we watch?
The Chiefs and the Broncos.
Oh, yeah. I don't remember it.
Yeah.
It was a good time. It was a good time. Make sure you head into Tanner's and the High-Low and all of our local businesses whenever you're in town. It's your questions from Wabash Station. This is how it works. You ask them. If you're a subscriber, we answer them for all to hear, and Cole Carmody is going to read them this week.
First question comes from Get Out More Cat. How much more do you like the basketball team with their new haircuts?
It's weird. You saw an early... You got the sneak peek, didn't you? Because you texted us about Ish's hair. Mm-hmm. The one that freaks me out is Mike McGurl.
Mike's dude looks perfect.
Really?
The dude's had like dreadlocks so much, and now it's just everything's gone. Basically, they buzz cut at each other. They go to the football locker room and do this? I don't know what. I don't know. I'm not crazy about it.
Was it Timmy Horn that was lining people up during football season? Mm-hmm. They hit up Timmy? Santa and a barber?
Wow. Santa and a barber.
I think their haircuts look really good, personally.
Some of them.
I think they got together in the locker room and said, guys, what's holding us back? And someone said, our hair. And they cut their hair off.
It honestly makes sense. It makes sense when you look at it. I mean, what do they say? Look good, feel good, play good. I mean, you're just it's like you're jumping into a different skin. They start out 0-4. They get new haircuts, and then they win 2 games.
And then they still have to play KU and Baylor in those haircuts.
Yeah, it's
They're going to put on wigs.
Got to play bad again against the good teams.
Bruce Weber's locker room is not connected. They're very divided right now, as half of the team still has long hair.
That's the hippie wing of the basketball program.
I would like to see Carleton and Selton both cut their hair. If that happens, K-State's not losing again the rest of the season.
Oh, I see. That's
how it works. I don't
it's
make the
science.
rules. Yeah, it is a science. I have it down to a science. If they cut their hair, they're not losing again.
You are truly the Fauci of hoops.
Are these the most significant haircuts to the basketball team since Ryan Patzwald cut off his mohawk?
Who in the world is that?
Man.
Come on.
He's in the rafters. Well, not really. His bong is up in the rafters. But, yeah, it seems like they've done this before, though. It seems like there was something hair-related in the recent history.
Mike did something because I remember someone asked Bruce about it. And he's like, I'm just glad he played good, or else I would have cussed him out. That was a Bruce After Dark.
It's like baseball. You know, baseball players, when they get in a slump, they start growing a beard, or when they get in a slump, they shave their beard. So, I mean, this kind of thing, you've seen it before. Honestly, it didn't surprise me. It's pretty cool.
I just can't believe that we're talking about haircuts, because that's the only good thing about this basketball team we can talk about, basically.
Really? They won 2 in a row, and now you say that. Why do you hate them so much?
Oh, no.
It's whatever works. And I mentioned it in today's Daily Delivery, or Tuesdays. You know, Bruce kind of weaponizes his fans' hatred against his fans and gets in the locker room and says, everyone hates you. They hate you. And they go out and win. And you know, whatever works. If it gets you over the hump, so be it. Now he needs to teach them that about the bird flu. That you need to do everything you can to kill birds.
Very
Saturday.
Very.
Oh, okay.
You didn't get that?
Jeez.
I mean, there is the bird flu that is kind of popping up.
I know. Is it back? The bird flu?
It could be back.
Okay. Is it like bird flu-rona?
It's 50% death rate, I think. So
The bird flu's got a 50% death rate?
don't catch it.
Holy crap. I knew the birds were going to take us out.
Birds aren't real. They're government drones.
All right, moving on.
Proof right there. Go ahead.
Next question from Fla Cat Fan 90, a.k.a. Florida Cat Fan 90. Don't worry. I was going to say that.
There we go.
Blah.
Who has had a bigger impact, Marquise Noel or Mark Smith?
Mark Smith. I would say Marquise, maybe on the floor, if you just want to look at that. But I feel like Mark Smith brought a level of adulthood. I don't mean that as an insult. I mean, this was a really young team, and he's traveled. I mean, he's been through his own issues. You talk to people from Illinois, bad fit, they were happy he was gone. Missouri didn't seem to miss him. Now I look back and think, what would he have been like if he'd come to Kansas State from day one? Would he have gone through all the stuff he went through, and K-Staters wouldn't like him, and he'd be off at Tennessee or somewhere now? He's been a revelation. I never expected this from him. I expected maybe 10-6. And last night, or Tuesday night, he went for 22-8. That's incredible. It's amazing. So, yeah, and I think he brings that locker room stability that Bruce's programs need. And I've said this before, and I'm ironclad solid on my belief in this. Bruce's biggest failing as a coach is an inability to create locker room leaders. He doesn't really foster a locker room environment. People say, well, he wins with other people's players. That's not what he does. He wins with other people's locker rooms. You know, when he came to Kansas State, he had Rodney McGruder as the alpha. Everyone knew it. He was the best player. Everyone respected him. He was a calm force that was also outspoken and led the team. Next time around, Barry Brown grew into that. I don't see that Bruce or anyone really did anything. Barry just said, I'm going to be an ass kicker. I'm going to work my butt off. And he became the alpha. And he went out and found an alpha that everyone accepted. And it's paying off. It actually makes me think that this isn't a fluke right now, that maybe they will be turning the corner. They do have talent, but they have beaten teams with more talent the last 2 games. So, I don't know. I think Mark Smith is clearly it for me. Anyone disagree?
I kind of fits. I just think that, like you said, on the court, we didn't expect Noel. Well, I say we. Most people didn't expect Noel to
this good.
have this big of an impact on the court. Without Marquise Noel, K-State's not in this position. That's just the bottom line. Do they maybe they win that Texas game because he played his second worst game outside of Nebraska. But without Noel, I don't think that they're even competitive in some of these games. I mean, he brings a level that people don't understand because he affects every single other player on the court with how good he is passing the ball. With how good of a passer he is, he makes it to where almost every other person on the court is capable of getting the ball at any given time. The defense has to focus on him so much. Just look what happened on that last play. The defense closes in on him as he drives into the lane, and Nigel gets an open lane. He throws it to him, gets a layup, ends up being the game-winning point. I think Noel's impact on the court is probably a little bit bigger than Mark Smith, and don't get me wrong, I love Mark Smith. I think he has provided a much-needed boost on the court. But where I think Mark Smith's biggest impact, and you just talked about it, Fitz, is in the locker room. And not so much even for this year, but he's teaching the younger guys how you play winning basketball. Let's not forget, he has played with some really good players at Missouri and at Illinois. He's been on some good teams. He is carrying the load. He is showing the younger guys, hey, this is how you play. This is how you have to work in order to be successful. And I think, quite honestly, he's going to hand that torch off to Nigel Pack next year. Everything that I've seen, we've been around him. Nigel is a silent leader. Those guys follow him. When he plays well, the team plays well. When he works hard and does something really well on the court, the team usually follows. So I think Mark Smith is the clear-cut leader right now, and he's going to hand that off to Nigel Pack. But as far as on the court impact, I'm going to go with Noel just because we didn't see it coming.
I still think Marquise Noel's just too inconsistent. Mark Smith, he's consistent. You can get you know what you're going to get out of Mark Smith pretty much game in, game out. His variance is not as big as what Marquise Noel. Marquise Noel, he could have a really good, really great game, but he can also make some really bad decisions that could get K-State into some problems. So I think that as far as bigger positive impact for an average throughout the whole season, I think it's Mark Smith.
Well, the TCU game's perfect evidence of the low side, the downside of Marquise, not running the clock and taking shots. The interesting thing about Noel for me is he is the best assist point guard K-State's had in my memory. Honestly, he just dishes it out, and he doesn't pass enough. He takes too many shots. For me, he takes too many shots. If he could edit out his forced shot habit or that habit of I'm going to take it to the hole even if there's nothing there, and he ends up throwing up the worst layup. I don't even know what it was. It killed the cheerleader. R.I.P. But, yeah, I enjoy him a lot. He makes a lot of things happen, but he also drives me crazy. Meanwhile, Mark Smith's over there quietly rebounding everything that comes off the rim. And I bet you if you ask a Missouri or even an Illinois fan, what would you say if I told you Mark Smith leads the Big 12 in rebounding? They would bah-ha-ha until they couldn't breathe anymore. But I think the maturity has caught up to his game, and it's showing off and showing out now. And I'm just really happy for the guy because he hasn't had a great basketball career. He's had a lot of frustrations, and now he's really having some success as an individual player, and we'll see if it translates to the team.
Marquise Noel, I would flirt with him if he could average maybe 1 or 2 turnovers a game. But it's just been, like you mentioned, it's been dumb play after dumb play with him, and he's got a great upside. What's up?
You'd flirt with him?
I'd flirt with the idea of picking him for Florida Cat.
Hey, Shoddy.
Florida fan, what's his name? Florida fan 90?
Florida Cat fan.
I would flirt with Noel for the answer here, but he turns it over too much. So, yeah. Mark Smith, I mean, I get it. There's a lot of guys that are capable of just scoring in college basketball. With Kansas State, I mean, Selton Miguel and Mike McGurl, if they're on the court, you've got to have somebody that can go and get a bucket. And I know Noel can do that, but at 5'5" or whatever, you need somebody that can score, and Smith has been that guy. So I'm agreeing with you and Zach, Fitz and Zach. I would go Mark Smith here. If Noel could just stop with these boneheaded plays, I'd like his game a lot more. So Smith has won K-State a couple games this year. I don't know if Noel has. I know he had the deep 3 against Wichita State, but that was don't shoot it. Good shot.
I know.
I think Noel is more along the lines of, if we're going to take this to a football comparison, he's an offensive lineman. He does a lot of things that people see. When he screws up, people notice. But when he does something really good, I think that it goes unnoticed sometimes. Because let's be honest, if he has a really nice pass and a guy comes flying down the lane for an awesome dunk, the average fan is going to go, that was an amazing dunk. Look at that play. Now, you're going to have some people that see the assists, but let's also realize he's been an outstanding rebounder for his size. He's been a good rebounder. There's been times he's flirted with a triple double. K-State hasn't had a triple double in years.
Yep.
So I mean, I agree. This is not a hate on Mark Smith because I'm the biggest Mark Smith fan, but Marquise Noel's game has gone from oh God to now you have a little bit more confidence in him. And by the end of the year, if K-State wants to be where they were, you're right. He will have to take some of that inconsistency out of his game. But the progression that we've seen from Noel, I think, is the most impressive part.
If this coaching staff can get Ish Massoud to rebound and defend at the level he's capable, there's a whole nother gear because he doesn't. I mean, he's an adequate defender, a subpar rebounder, and sometimes he's the tallest guy on the court for K-State. He's a great shooter. They just need to complete his game more, but he's also young. And the other two guys we were talking about are seniors.
Yep. Next question comes from Link182. Is it any cool? That's a good name. You like that?
That's great.
Yeah.
We've had him before.
Yeah. Is it any coincidence that arguably the three best players have not been developed by Bruce Weber? Now, I don't know who he's referring to besides Noel, Smith, and then...
Well, I don't agree with the premise. I mean, Nigel's got to be in the top three.
Yeah.
I would put Nigel at number one. So that's just me.
And Weber's known Mark Smith for 5 or 6 years now, so...
Yeah, let's just say this. They were frightfully young, and it's Weber's fault. You can't just say it was, a meteor passed too close to the sun, and thus K-State's roster was thinned out. They had too many guys leave the program. But, yeah, they brought in adults. They did. And it just goes to show you, Marquise Noel goes to show you, and I think there's evidence of it on the Tech roster, going out and finding guys from a lower level and giving them an opportunity to play at this level, they show out. They can play. Tech rebuilt its roster with some guys that, I think someone's from Hampton and
UTEP.
UTEP.
The best player.
Yeah. So I guess everyone transfers out of UTEP apparently. But yeah, I mean, it does say something that the roster was this thin, that you've got three guys that essentially stepped into the starting lineup. That's an indictment on their recruiting. There's no other way around it. And roster management. I mean, not just recruiting. They'd go out and get guys, and then guys would leave. But the thing about the guys that left, have any of them? Do you miss any of them? Boy, if we had, no. And again, that's their recruiting. I think Bruce Weber might have discovered a new trick for an old dog here. I remember last year when he said, "I've never really done transfers at a high level before, but we're going to have to do it." I think he's discovered that he's going to do it. And honestly, the way K-State recruits at a high school level, for the most part, once in a while they'll get a decent player in the last 5 years since the big three departed. But even that class was full of trash. I think they had 8 guys in that recruiting class, and 3 ended up being, game-changing, program-changing guys. But, yeah, they don't recruit at a high enough level, so if they want to continue to get into the transfer portal, I think it's a good formula for them.
Fitz, you mentioned in the past, I believe, Wally Judge and his fit at K-State was just never meant to be, right? So going as a recruit, where you fit in is key. And Mark Smith wasn't a good fit at Mizzou. He's not a bad person, not a bad player. Both sides knew that wasn't a good fit. So Bruce Weber's doing a good job here of finding these players and where they fit. Same thing with Ish Massoud at playing at the 5 spot. At Wake Forest, he wasn't happy with himself, and I think both sides agreed that it's time to move on. And now we found a better role for Ish here at K-State, and same thing with Noel. He wanted to step up in competition, and while we were a little critical of him a moment ago, he's still playing really good basketball for Kansas State. So it's all about the fit. And Bruce Weber, I agree, Fitz, his recruiting has gotten him to the point of having some of your good players be newcomers. But that's the new reality of college basketball. And I give credit to Weber for that. I don't think it's anything bad. I don't think it's any sort of coincidence either. I think Nigel Pack and Davion, Mike, all these players have a lot to bring to the table as well.
You got to understand, too, that I think a lot of these guys are still extremely young. I know we're talking about – we can sit here till we're blue in the face and talk about recruiting because I'm with you. We've talked about that. Everybody's on the same page. But you look at the sophomore class because that's really the class we're talking about when we look at recruiting. When you talk about when Link 182 asks the 3 best players have not been developed by Bruce Weber, well, sophomores are still developing.
Right.
Not saying that they're necessarily all world players, but when you recruit not every player you recruit is going to be a starter. That's just the reality of the situation. It's not like football where your walk-ons are your backups. You're going to have scholarship players that don't play a lot. Luke Kazubke may never develop into the player they thought he was going to be, but if he can be the player that comes off the bench and hits a 3 or 2 a game, plays solid defense, plays 12 minutes a game, somebody has to do that role. That's going to be a scholarship player. Mm-hmm. He was not. I mean, that's what I understand the recruiting. I totally get it. But if you have players that can come off the bench and fill a role that's just as important as anything, and keeping those guys happy so they do stick around, so they do learn the system, they do start to develop, that's just the key to anything. That it really is.
Very good.
Next question from Yo Mama. How long before one and done team is redefined to include a team full of seniors?
I'm not following that question.
So one and done's like going to the NBA.
Right.
Bunch of freshmen, they come in for
Transfer
1 year. Now, transfers, you bring in a whole bunch of final year guys for 1 year. I like the question.
No,
I think
it does make sense. I was thinking one and done in terms of a team in the NCAA tournament. That's what I didn't follow. Yeah, that's true. That's what they're doing.
A team full of Mark Smiths is pretty much what he's asking.
They're going out and finding 1 year free agents. You know, and you can't live off that because you're going to miss at some point. It worked this time. I think the better way to go is the Ish Masouds in the long run. I mean, he's going to be around for a while.
And Noel's got next year as well. He played 3 years at Arkansas State, but he's listed as a junior, or not Arkansas State, Arkansas Little Rock. He's listed as a junior. So, I mean.
Oh, he is?
He is. So he has this year and next year as well.
Because he's got his COVID year.
Right.
Interesting. Well, we'll see if he comes back. I'm sure he will because I think he's having a blast playing at this level.
I think K-State, if you can go out and get 1 or 2 of these 5th year, 6th year seniors, whatever, for pretty soon it's just going to be 5th year seniors, right? The COVID year is going to run out eventually, but the transfer portal is always going to be there. So if you can go out and get a one or two 1 year guys each year, you add veteran leadership to your locker room. And you had competition, too. That's something that having Mark Smith has made Selton Miguel a better defender. We can talk about his offensive struggles, but he shut down Marcus Carr the last 4 minutes of that game. Marcus Carr was on a rampant hot streak. Mm-hmm. They put Selton Miguel on him, and they cooled him down and won him the game.
He can play D, no doubt about it. I like the idea of bringing in a guy once in a while. You know what? As critical as I've been of their recruiting, I really like this roster. Because you've got that sophomore class that has 3 pieces that you're really intrigued by, including Selton, along with Bradford and Pack. And I'm an Ezeagu fan, not because he's a great player, but he's a great teammate. He's out there busting his ass, as awkward as it looks sometimes because the poor guy has 1 knee and a bad back. And have you ever seen him pop his hips on the sideline? It's amazing. It's violent. It's terrifying. But they've also got guys on the bench like Suri Lewis and Carlton Lingard that aren't contributing. You know, Suri's redshirting because he's injured, but I think they both have an upside that is notable. There's something about Lingard I really like, and apparently the coaches don't agree with me. They see his faults instead of his strengths. I love it when coaches do that. They see some guys for their faults and some guys for their strengths. Because, let's be honest, Nigel Pack isn't a great defender, but you don't ever want him off the court. So I kind of like this roster. I think Logan Landers has an upside that is, you know, probably at the 5 and not the 4 as he was sold. But the way the game's played now, you're almost better off with a 4 type guy at the 5. So you can stretch the defense. There's not many of those 5s out there that can really do it. But this is the best pair of true big men K-State has had, you know, in a very long time. And I don't mean that they're great, but they do anchor that defense, and they do anchor the team in the middle when you've got a guy that can catch the ball, pass the ball, rebound the ball, and both those guys can do it adequately. Not all Big 12, but adequately.
Mark Smith is a good player for Kansas State, but I'd almost call him an outlier for who you want as a transfer portal guy for his last season. I mean, you're going to want to bring in players that have 1, 2, 3 years of eligibility left and, you know, have a little more room to develop at Kansas State, and they weren't getting enough playing time at their previous school, whatever it may be. If you have somebody that plays 3 years or 4 years at a school and wants out, it's not a red flag for me, but something's not right there. I know Mark Smith is an exception here because I love him, but typically That's not what I'm looking for. So this whole super senior thing for 1 year, I'm not a fan of bringing in a player just for one season. I'd rather have them for 2 or 3.
I would typically agree with that. And you are right. Why are you a senior and leaving a school you've been at for 3 years? I mean, it's Missouri. I think we can all agree everyone should leave Missouri. But, it does send up a red flag. But it's almost like he did a personal assessment along the way and decided there's some things about me that need to change, not just my address. And it's paid off big time for K-State.
I know this was asked in a basketball sense, but I think I'm more interested in looking at this from a football sense too. There's no real one and done team. You can't have a one and done just with the way the NFL sets up their rules. Having to wait 3 years until after you're out of high school before you can enter the draft. But I think with football on that back end, you can get guys for 1 year and kind of build some sort of super team potentially. I mean, not saying that it's going to happen, but I think that it's more realistic to see, hey, is there a team out there that we can go 1 year, compete, get into the Final Four or get into the college football playoff and try competing for a national championship that way? I think you're more likely to see something there as far as a one and done team than you are seeing a whole bunch of basketball seniors going and making a run in the NCAA tournament.
Last question of the first half comes from Get Out More Cat. How many Big 12 teams make the tournament? I'm going to say 8. I don't think we'll be one of them for what it's worth. That's from Get Out More Cat.
I think 7. I think 8 is...
That's a lot.
Mathematically, it gets really difficult. Unless you got 2 teams that are going to win 1 or 2 games in conference play, which doesn't appear to be the case. Mathematically, you're not going to have enough wins to go around.
No.
I think 7, too.
But, Ryan had a math brain fart on Twitter. And but I do agree with his premise that the quality of this conference will get teams with records that would normally be off the board into the conversation. And I'm not sure. I think K-State's got to get to at least 8 wins in the conference to even get on the bubble because of their overall record. But I think what happens this upcoming weeks against the SEC is really important. The Big 12 needs to kick their asses because they haven't been. This Big 12 SEC challenge has helped the SEC a lot. It's raised their profile. It's raised their level of play as a conference. And now the Big 12 needs to kind of put them back in their place because that will lift the entire conference even further and open up the possibility of some teams getting in that maybe you would question them ever getting in.
As far as K-State goes, I'm going to tell you right now that Ole Miss is absolutely terrible. They lost to Missouri by 25.
Yeah, I saw that. That's unbelievable.
So that's a game K-State needs to get. Now, they played Auburn fairly well, but other than that, I mean, you look at their schedule, and it's just been pretty rough. So that's a game K-State needs to get. But I'm with you. I think 7 teams will get in. And, I'm very interested to see how it all happens because the win for K-State against Texas Tech, I think, is going to be huge. This game against Texas is big for them right now because it's a win.
Right. It bridges the end of the KU Baylor games.
But how good will Texas finish? That's another question. Texas Tech is going to be there at the end. Mm-hmm. They're going to be a top 4 seed, a top 4 seed. So they're going to be there at the end. That's why beating either KU Baylor one time is so huge because they have got to find a way to back that win against Texas Tech up with another quality win.
Do you guys remember earlier this season I was talking about Texas and how they don't have any quality wins?
I remember that.
You saw this, Zach?
Yeah, I saw that tweet.
The only quality win they have now is K-State.
It took them losing last night to K-State to gain their only quality win, which was against K-State.
One thing that would benefit K-State here moving forward is the committee has come out and said that they are aware of these COVID issues that teams are having, and it will take into account and it'll take effect their evaluation of these teams when it comes to Selection Sunday. So if that committee is truthful to that, K-State is 2-0 this season with its full roster and full coaching staff. So I get it. The non-con wasn't great. No enforced start isn't great either. But, heck, K-State picked up a good road win at Wichita State without Nigel Pack. So this team's done some things with and without their full roster. But over these last couple of games, if the committee's been watching and they're truthful, that's only going to help K-State.
That's really interesting because not only does that help K-State that they were shorthanded their first 4 games, but the other net effect of that is if you get onto the bubble, that means you've made a heck of a run over the final 14 games of your conference schedule. You've really made a nice push. And so, that last segment of your season, the record's going to be at a much higher winning percentage than any other point. So that could be vital for K-State. That's it for the first half of the PowerCat Questions podcast. We're sponsored by The Fridge. Our segment sponsors are Tanner's and the High-Low. I am Fitz, and this is the gang. They're all staring at me like I know what I'm talking about. We better go to break because they look like they're out to get me.
GoPowerCat.com's PowerCat podcast continues after this short break.
With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.
Welcome back to the PowerCat podcast. Now, let's return to the GPC studios.
Welcome back to the PowerCat Questions podcast, sponsored by The Fridge Wholesale Liquor. I am Tim Fitzgerald, alongside Zach Carlson, Ryan Gilbert, and Coles Carmody. I tried to get Z's into your name. I don't know, it didn't really work as well.
Sleepy Cole.
Yeah, okay, whatever.
Catching Z's.
Yeah. Oh, I like it.
Now I get it.
Yeah.
It took me a while. I'm sleepy.
Make sure you stop in the Fridge and Tanner's and the High-Low whenever you come to town. We appreciate the Fridge so much for their ongoing support of the PowerCat podcast. Kevin and the gang are amazing. If you got any questions about products, make sure you take those questions to the Fridge because they have an expert in every area of their store. And I'm pretty much their vodka expert. I know where the vodka is. That's it. And the bourbon and the beer, Mexican beer. Okay, that's it. More questions from Wabash Station. Here is Cole Carmody.
First question of the second half comes from Ohio PowerCat. How many upset wins will Bruce need to save his job?
Well, I don't think it's number of wins or anything. Gene Taylor's left the door open a little farther than I would prefer. I don't want in contention for the NCAA tournament. They need to be in the field of 64. And again, if you've been following along with how I feel about the first four, you understand what I'm saying. That's not the NCAA tournament to me. I absolutely am disgusted by the existence of the first four. Either make it 64 or expand it out so that more teams get in. But the first four is a joke. I don't know how you can have a tournament bracket with 2 11 seeds. That's not how it works at all. That's not how it works. So I'm disgusted by the first four. It is meant to save coaches' jobs, and it did save Bruce's job. So I can see Gene Taylor saying, hey, they almost made it. They made a great run at the end of the year. We're going to bring him back. I don't think that's enough for the fans. I think you're going to have a riot. If this program doesn't return to the NCAA tournament like had been established before he arrived and he continued it, if it goes 3 years in a row, I think the fans will just they'll want to change. And I think the tournament is the goal here, not a number of wins.
I never thought K-State basketball would be in such a bad position that the coaches and players would have to ask the fans to come to the KU game.
That said it all. Man,
that says everything.
Bruce Weber's postgame radio the other night with Texas was amazing. I mean, I don't want to say begged, but it got pretty close to that. There's a lot of tickets available, and they will be KU fans. And I almost sense that people are like, oh, I'm going to pull for the team, but they still need a message that we're not happy about the direction of the program. So I don't know what the attendance from K-State fans is going to be like, but there will be a lot more KU fans in Bramlage for the first time since Bob Huggins arrived. I mean, that was pretty commonplace with Wooldridge and Asbury, KU fans in the arena. But Huggs and Frank and early Bruce kept them out because the fans were all showing up. It's going to be intriguing.
I think the answer to this question is you hit the nail right on the head, Fitz, with having to make the NCAA tournament. And if they win two more real upset games. I'm talking Baylor. I'm talking KU. I'm talking Texas Tech. They have, 5 games against those teams? Mm-hmm. If they win 2 of those, they're going to be in the NCAA tournament. Because if you win 2 of those games, unless you just absolutely lay an egg and you don't win the games you're supposed to, which in that case, then Bruce shouldn't be back, then I think it's time to move on. But I'm also of the opinion of this can't just be somebody is better than what we have, right? I mean, I'm not saying that Bruce Weber is the right person for the job, because right now I think it's pretty clear that if K-State could get the guy that they wanted to get, then that's who you need to go get. But you can't settle. And I know there's no way of assuring that the one person, the 3 candidates you want, if there's no way of assuring that you're going to get those guys. But I fear that we've talked about development this whole podcast. I do worry that if he leaves, then it is a completely new roster next year.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That used to be a bigger concern for me than it is now. The transfer portal changes that whole dynamic. Okay, so you got KU, Baylor, and then Ole Miss to wrap up this month. I mean, if you get 2 of those, and you certainly should get Ole Miss. So I'm saying if you can beat either KU or Baylor, you really do redefine the season. Because then in February, you come home and you play Oklahoma State. You go to TCU.
2 games you should win.
You should win. You should absolutely win that. You got to get the TCU game after what they did.
You'd be back to 500, correct?
If they win one of the next 2, you would be. Then they catch Baylor, Iowa State, West Virginia, Oklahoma State again. It's just a much more manageable schedule. I mean, by Big 12 standards, it's a much more manageable schedule heading into the future. You don't have a string of games quite like what you're in the midst of.
I don't think Iowa State's that good, you guys.
I think they're coming back to earth. There's no doubt about it.
2-4 in conference play.
Yeah, they have come back down quite a bit, but he has done a great job improving a really bad program. Proof of removing a coach and what the transfer portal can do for you.
Yep.
Regarding just Bruce Weber, a loss to Oklahoma State or TCU, West Virginia down the stretch isn't going to mean anything. Or pardon me, a win over Baylor, those teams isn't going to mean anything if you lose, and vice versa. So I think these last 2 wins for Kansas State are just so big because there is real momentum going for the Wildcats. I mean, K-State could easily be 4-2 or 5-1 right now. And I'm not crazy for saying that if just a few possessions go differently. So it's not like the train wreck of the season where Marcus Foster and all those guys left and, they beat Iowa State, they beat KU, they were what, 4-1, I think, and after the first 5 games they were in first place, and then it obviously derailed. But this is a lot different than that because you can call me crazy if you want, but this team's got some real momentum moving forward. It's not like these 2 wins just came out of left field. You like that, Cole?
I like
Pretty
that.
good reference. Yeah. I know. So there's momentum.
If they win Saturday, the context of everything changes for the fans, for the program, for the season, just because beating Kansas is such a monumental thing for anyone in the Big 12, but certainly when it's your in-state rival, it's huge. And there'll be fans upset if they beat KU because they're so dedicated to the idea of moving on from Bruce that it's frustrating them that they're winning. And people are conflicted. It's like they're happy they're winning and they're not happy they're winning. They don't know how to react to this because they thought this was the end and now maybe it's not. And that's a dynamic that, Zach pointed out with what attendance might be Saturday and how the players and coaches were basically pleading with fans to show up to a KU K-State game. Unbelievable.
I'm just gonna say this because it's been frustrating me, and if this rubs some people the wrong way, then I'm sorry, but there's no reason why you should root against your team.
Yeah.
Well, you can't have it both ways. If you want Weber fired, then
you don't root.
You're either with us or you're against us.
It's okay if you choose not to participate, if you choose not to watch, then I understand that sentiment. But by watching the games and getting frustrated that they win, that's counterintuitive. That's like rooting for the number 1 overall pick when the season just starts. When the Chiefs are 2-3 and they lose to the Titans or whatever the situation was, that's like rooting for the number 1 overall pick. Now, I get it. K-State's talent different than the Chiefs. Completely different. I get that. But this early on in the season, rooting for the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft, that's what this is about. You have to look at each season in a microcosm and really look at it and say, okay, this is where we're at. This is where we're going. If you're a fan, if you choose not to watch it after a certain game, then don't watch it. If you want to come back and you want to support the team when things get better, by all means, you're a fan. That's what you can do.
You're a bandwagon fan if you come back only when they're good. If you want to get off the bus, then get off. You can't be coming and leaving only when they're good. If you support Bruce Weber like I have, even through that 0-4 start, then stay with me. If you want to get off the train when they're 0-4, don't come back. You're a bandwagon fan if you do that.
I don't agree with that, but
I don't think that rooting against them to win is you're not a fan at that point.
I don't blame fans for checking out. These were the back-to-back worst seasons in modern history of Kansas State basketball. There's nothing else to compare it to since World War II. There's nothing else. I mean, I think some people are lacking the historical context of how crappy it's been. So I understand that a lot of fans have checked out, but I'm with Cole. I did a daily delivery on it. You never root against your team. If it's your team, you don't root against them. Are you indifferent? Maybe that happens, but yeah, you pull for your team. You want the best. Mostly, even if you don't like the coach, you got to pull for the kids. They're the ones who put the purple on. They're students just like you were. And that makes me really uncomfortable to think that you want the players to go through losing so that you can get your way with a different coach. That makes me really uncomfortable. It kind of sours me on people that would say that. I understand people want to change. I get why they want it, but I'm telling you what, if you ever find yourself in a position when Kansas State and KU line up in any sport and you decide it's best for what you want for KU to win, I don't want to discuss it. Screw you, man.
I think a majority of K-State fans are not that way. I don't want to make it sound like that. I think that there are a lot of people out there that are like that. There are some, but I think we'll be pleasantly surprised with the amount of people who have decided, okay, you know what? They have a chance to beat KU. It's going to be a good environment. We haven't seen a packed house for a KU game in 2 years now. Like, there's going to be. I've already heard from multiple people who live in Kansas City that, like, yeah, I'm coming to the game. I haven't been to a game in 2 years. They've won 2 games in a row. I wasn't going to go, but now that they've played a little bit better, I want to come watch them play. So I'm going to buy tickets and I'm going to come. For multiple people that are like that. So there will be people that decide that that's what they're going to do. And those are the people that I'm okay with. Those are the people that want Bruce Weber gone, but they want K-State to do well. And if that means K-State makes the NCAA tournament and Bruce Weber stays another year, they're okay with it. What I'm not okay with are the people that, I'm not going to watch the game, and I'm going to say fire Bruce no matter what happens. It's not about Bruce at that point. It's really not.
Well, and it's going to be easy for the non-band. Well, how do you want to say this? Non-bandwagon?
Fairweather bandwagon.
Fairweather fans to not watch Saturday. I hadn't realized it until I just saw this on our own message boards.
ESPN Plus.
The game is on ESPN Plus. If you want more evidence that ESPN is trying to tank the TV ratings of some of these programs, that's it. You're playing Kansas, the most prominent basketball program in the conference by far, and one of the most prominent in the country that has built-in ratings every time. Oh, you don't want to put them on one of your other channels. You want to put them on ESPN Plus. It makes absolutely no sense to me. So, but what I'm saying is those Fairweather fans that have checked out never subscribe to ESPN Plus to watch K-State basketball. They're just out. So if you don't have ESPN Plus and you're in Manhattan, have a good time at Tanner's. It'll be a great environment to watch a game in.
Look at it from the other side, though. There's a whole bunch of T-shirt KU fans that are subscribed to ESPN Plus because they're not. They're sure.
No, you're right.
They're surely not going to miss a KU basketball game.
Yeah, you're right.
But back to the point of everything, K-State fans have experienced the worst stretch of conference basketball the last 3 years, and up until whatever the record was, up until the last 2 wins, what was it, like 7-30?
It was terrible,
or whatever.
Yeah,
it's terrible. So I sympathize with the fans that see that. They see the 0-4 start, and they say, "Look, if the last 2 years wasn't bad enough for Gene Taylor to do his job, then what is it going to take for K-State basketball to be good again? You know, do we let Bruce ride it out and see if he can, throw a whole bunch of upsets together and win? Or do you accept, hey, if K-State basketball is ever going to be good again, you got to take your losses now because that's apparently the only way that Gene Taylor will get rid of him."
It's about players on the court, in my opinion. It's about talent on the court.
The players change every year, and with the transfer portal, they can come and go as they please. I think now, as much as probably more than ever, there's not as much emotional investment into whatever the players are on the court because they can come and go and leave as they want. They can go chase a dollar if they want to go to the SEC or wherever. There's no real emotional attachment when players are so willing to leave.
It's collegiate free agency.
They will leave. There's no. It's not a two-way street. It's if the fans are nice to you, the players aren't gonna be like, well, the fans were real nice to me, but I'm not playing well. I'm not doing well. I think I'll just stick around. We're not winning. I mean, no one wants to be a part of a losing team. No one wants to cheer for a losing team. So if K-State fans, and I'm not going to say that you should cheer against K-State, but at this point, I think most people are like, all right, let's just, if we're not going to do it mid-season, let's just lose as many games as possible. So something has to be done, and we can find out where Gene Taylor stands.
You can look back to the end of football season to understand the polar opposites that Kansas State basketball and LSU football are. At Kansas State, you can't possibly fire a coach 2 years removed from a Big 12 title, shared Big 12 title. LSU, they fired a coach a year and a half after winning a national title. This is an issue. And at the start of the year, I had a lot of people. I remember doing this on Sirius XM. They asked me, Ari Timken asked me, well, what will the record be for Kansas State at the end of the season? Or maybe it was Dave Archer. I think it was Dave, actually. And I said, whatever puts Gene Taylor in the biggest jam. And they go, what do you mean? I go, because Bruce never does enough to be definitively fired or re-engage his fans. He's been caught in this middle of just getting by. Even the first four, that was literally like grabbing the rope before you drowned and finding a way to pull yourself up. It was that's what Bruce does, and he's doing it again. We're seeing it. They started 0-4 in the conference. We thought they were done. There's no way, and here they won back-to-back games. We're changed the entire narrative for this weekend. This is what he does. He just doesn't. He's too good of a coach. He's too good of an X's and O's coach to have a team completely collapse on him unless the players quit, which happened at Illinois. These players aren't quitting on them. They love their coach. And that's been a consistent theme for this team, with the exception of maybe the Marcus Foster blow-up, that they love their coach. They always do. I mean, Bruce is a likable guy. Does he have irritating things about him? Yeah, he does. But the players are invested in him, and I think that's something that fans should be aware of. You've invested in, and I fell into this trap. I'm not trying to talk down to anyone. You invest yourself in disliking a guy for the results in the court, you miss the connection that is happening between a guy who's really likable to the players, to the other coaches, to the administrators, and to the big donors. And, I mean, that's a lot to overcome to remove a coach.
So before we get on to football, I just want to ask this rapid-fire question. Percentage chance that K-State beats KU on Saturday?
1 in 10.
1 in 4.
Ooh, I'm closer to 1 in 4, Gills.
Yeah,
I don't think they win, but
it'll be a good game.
I'm not disagreeing. It might be a good game, but it's a lot for K-State to overcome. Not only the talent, but the officiating. It always
You're not wrong.
It always is.
But if John Higgins is there,
I know
John Higgins in KU games, K-State games, that's the golden ticket.
But imagine, you both think it's closer to 1 in 4. Imagine we're having this conversation a week ago. Nobody's even close to 1 in 4.
No.
I'd be 1 in 4.
I think the KU game's it's a little bit different animal. Even if it's even if the team is 0-17,
yeah, it's like playing the
and
lottery.
if the final game is if senior day is against KU and they haven't won a conference game, I mean that's probably a bad take, but still,
I actually think they match up really well with KU.
I think they match up as well as they have in a long time.
Guard wise, I mean they got guys that Mark Smith can defend Abaji.
Those seats we have in the baseline, they're not great for watching the game. They really aren't. But you do get a great sampling of the athleticism. And a lot of those games in the past, people are like, oh, they match up pretty well. And then you see them in person, and you're like, oh, yeah, they don't match up at all. KU was just recruiting a different level of athlete. You could see them jump higher, everything about them was accelerated compared to the K-State players. That gap's closed. And I don't know if it's closed that much this year. But you look at some of their best players, they're local guys. So they're not going out to California and building their roster. They have done some local flavoring this time, and I think they match up pretty well.
Okay. Deep breaths.
Is Remy Martin back?
Yes.
Was he out for the season?
No.
No, he wasn't out for the season?
No, but that was another.
Is KU going to the Big Ten, too?
Yeah.
I believe the guy who said that name rhymes with Tyke and Hernan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's a scoopmeister. Scoopmeister.
Oh.
Whew. Deep breath. Ready?
We're going to football now?
What if he trusts his sources?
Did we have one more
Hope I don't pull a
Bruce
hamstring.
question or not?
No.
No, that was it.
Did you have one you wanted to
I
answer?
would like to butt in with Bruce. I thought we had one more.
Nope.
Do you want one? Oh, wait, yeah, there is, I think.
Thank you.
Yes. The
Duria's question.
Come on.
Yeah. My bad. No deep breaths yet.
I'm telling you what, man, I put you in charge.
No deep breaths.
We're
just going.
You're driving the vehicle right now, and you just crossed the center lane.
Just
Keep us on course here, young
blew out
man.
the left rear.
My God.
Where's go?
From Duria, do you honestly think Bruce Weber gets fired after this year if he doesn't make the tournament?
That's a great question.
I don't know.
I don't know because I don't know how Gene will handle it, and I don't know how Carl Ice and his wife will handle it.
Do you poll the players and say, if we make a change and we hire
You don't pull the players.
No.
coach? You don't do that at
No,
all?
you don't pull the players. No.
No.
You do what's best for your business, and that's where I'm at with this. What's best for business? People aren't showing up, and please don't mistake that people buying tickets is the same as going to the games. Alumni are buying their tickets because they don't want to give them up because they know the future is going to be good for K-State basketball.
And they know there's going to be an $80 million plus renovation
Right.
of where their seats are.
Right. Nobody wants to give up their seats. And if you got enough money to afford the seats on that west side in the center court, I mean, I know a pretty big donor who can't get seats in there because there's no open seats that he wants. I mean, those seats are all taken. They're all reserved. And those money people aren't giving them up. But if you're Gene Taylor, you're starting to look at the bottom line. I wonder what their revenue's been off the Shamrock Zone. Probably not much at all. And that should be a big moneymaker for them. And I don't know how they're all using the Shamrock Zone. I think for an afternoon game against KU, they should have a watch party for other Big 12 games in the Shamrock Zone. Just invite people up to watch basketball and run a sports bar. I mean, I imagine Aggieville wouldn't like that very much, but it's revenue. So
I think
I don't know what to say. I don't know. I can't read Gene's mind, and he's very vague. And keep in mind, here's another factor. We'll have a different president by the end of the season. Mm-hmm. We will have a new university president seated, and I don't know how they'll handle it.
I think the answer to this question is yes. Unless some other circumstances happen. But if this team were to get COVID at the end of the year instead of the beginning of the year, and they limp to a finish that way, and the excuse was, oh, well, we were going to make the tournament, but we got COVID. Well, Ryan just talked about earlier in the podcast, the NCAA is taking that into consideration. They played 4 games where they were seriously depleted. I honestly think that if Bruce Weber doesn't make the tournament this year, he's gone, and I think he knows it. To be honest, I really think he knows it.
I do too. I think my gut tells me Gene kept it kind of vague for public, but told Bruce and Jeff Meddy, you got to make the tournament. That's where we want to be. And if you miss again, it's done. I think he was pretty clear. And if I'm the boss, that's a great line of demarcation to put down because it's not in your control. You don't have to make the decision. The committee will make the decision. Well, I would lean towards, if I was AD, yes, but I'm not the AD, and you got to admit that the program does look better, but is it too little too late?
The only thing I have to say about Weber is, Zach, you mentioned K-State's, 7-30 something in their
Whatever
last
I don't know what the
games.
exact stat is, but
And we talked about Nigel Pack, how the coaches can look at the positives or the negatives, and I'm somebody that always looks at the positives with Bruce Weber. When's the last time any coach at K-State won multiple league titles?
No, you can say that, but
So-
that doesn't excuse destroying the program.
I agree. The lows have
I
been
built
very
you the
low.
best house you've ever seen, and
Bill
also
Snyder?
burned it to the ground.
I know it's not basketball, but Bill Snyder. I mean, you can make the parallel there. You can do great things for a program, but if currently you're not keeping up to where K-State, whatever sport it is, whatever the standard you want it to be at, if you're not meeting it, it doesn't matter what you've done in the past. What have you done for me lately? And lately, you're 7 and whatever, 9 and 30 something. It's got to be better than that.
I would bet a lot of money, though, that if Bruce Weber's around for 5 or 6 more years, he's up in the top 2, maybe wins another Big 12 title. There's going to be some ugly seasons along the ride with that, but
that's the problem.
Bruce Weber he's not on empty. He's got something left in the tank. And that's why I would have an issue with him getting fired.
The problem is when after the 90s and early 2000s, there was 15 years of just suck of K-State basketball with Tom Asbury, Jim Oldridge, and then you get Bob Huggins in, and then you have Frank Martin. You've built this level of consistency that is expected again after terrible K-State basketball for nearly 2 decades, and you bring the standard up. Bruce Weber comes in, first year, wins a Big 12 title. That is the standard that K-State basketball became,
right,
with Bob Huggins, Frank Martin, Bruce Weber. Then what does Bruce do? They go down, and then he makes that tournament, saves his job, and then is able to rebound a bit, does great. And I'll argue that if Bruce Weber did not have Barry Brown on his team, that Bruce Weber would have been fired earlier.
Sure.
You can say that about so many coaches, though. If this player's not on this team, then this coach.
But Barry Brown was literally the coach. He was basically the coach, and you can't. The success of those two teams, that Elite Eight team and that Big 12 championship team with Barry Brown. Without Barry Brown, it's not about his play on the court; it's his leadership.
Yeah,
Barry was a leader.
He changed the season in a locker room at a halftime. Not a coach, and everyone admits it. Even Bruce Weber admits it. When K-State played so awfully against West Virginia in the first half of a game, and Barry went in there and said, "Enough of this crap." No, and everything changed about that team, and everyone realized we're following Barry. The thing about it is, Gil, you're right. He has won 2 Big 12 titles shared, granted, but there's banners. I get it. That's the standard he's now established, and this isn't the standard. Coaches all the time end up getting fired because they don't meet their own standard. They improve the program maybe, but they don't meet their own standard. And I introduce you to a guy named Bill Snyder. He got fired for a season that before his arrival would have been cherished as one of the great successes of K-State football. That when you improve things, you got to keep meeting that standard, and not only have they not been good, they've been historically bad. This is so far off standard, it's undeniable, and it can't continue. It becomes the standard, and that's what happened with Asbury and Woldridge. We started to accept that maybe getting on the NIT bubble was good enough. It's not good enough at this school. It's just not, And I hope they return to the tournament. I hope they actually do some damage in the tournament. For all we talk about the success and winning the Big 12 title, those teams both lost in the first round. He's only had one team advance beyond the round of 64. That's weird. I don't understand it. But it is what it is, and we'll just see how the season plays out.
Going 4 years without an NCAA tournament bid is enough for me. And it doesn't matter that the 2020 tournament got canceled. They weren't making it even if it was happening.
They were making a run in Kansas City. They were doing it. And McAtee was going to carry him.
If you can't make – if your players on the court and you don't have a single one on the court that never played in an NCAA tournament for your own team –
Mark.
Okay.
Mike.
Okay, Mike.
Oops. I didn't hear the rest of your question, Zach. Sorry.
Mike is an outlier there. But outside of Mike, who's a billion years old, he's Skylar Thompson reincarnated.
He is not. He's just a fifth-year senior.
They got the same
probably 2 years
haircut.
older than Mike.
They have the same haircut. Aside from that, you don't have anybody that's worn a K-State jersey in the postseason.
Shane Southpaw. Curtis Kelly.
And they played for Frank.
Shane played for Bruce.
Barely. So that's my point, is you can't have droughts this long and expect, hey, well, there's this excuse or this happened. I didn't have this. At some point, you got to move on. You got to say we can find something better than this.
I don't know if we're getting a little bit of a false narrative with this consistency that K-State got with Huggins, because they didn't make a tournament when Huggins took over, correct?
They should have.
They should have?
They should have. They got screwed. They beat Tech in the Big 12 tournament, and Tech got in with a lesser record.
Okay.
I mean, they got absolutely screwed that year.
Is that Bobby Knight?
But the point about Bob Huggins is it changed the narrative of K-State basketball. It set the momentum, even though they didn't make the tournament that year, and they should have been a tournament team. It changed the outlook and the momentum after, 15 years. Well, not 15 years, but 10 years of just terrible K-State basketball. And maybe it's just me growing up in that era of having to watch Asbury, Woldridge coach teams, and just knowing, hey, when you're growing up as a kid, as a K-State fan in the 90s, you barely knew what the NCAA tournament was because K-State didn't play in it. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what it was like. So then K-State finally gets to go to this great tournament, with Frank Martin. Bob Huggins should have been there, but when Frank Martin comes and sets the expectation of we're going to finish top 4 in the Big 12 every year, we're going to have a bye and be one of those teams that has a bye in the Big 12 tournament.
Which Huggins teams did also. That was what was incredible. He had a bye that year.
Yeah.
Beat Tech, and they still didn't get in. It was unbelievable.
I mean, being a top 4 team in the conference, that changed the expectation. So once you've reached that, that's what the expectation is. You don't get to do this for 3 years. You just don't.
No. I'll tell you what, guys, let's take another break. We haven't even done football yet. We haven't gotten to football. That's right. We'll talk about football on the other side of this break. This is the PowerCat Questions podcast, sponsored by The Fridge. We'll be right back.
GoPowerCat.com's PowerCat podcast continues after this short break.
Is your January looking dry? Get some lotion. Get a humidifier. And better yet, get Drizzly, the go-to app for drink delivery. With Drizzly, you can compare prices across local stores to get the best price on a huge selection of drinks perfect for dry January. Every single time. Non-alcoholic wines? Have a look. Ready-made mocktails? Grab a straw and order them up. Beer without the alcohol? Yep, take your pick. You can find all of them here, in the app, in that phone that's in your hand. Could it be any simpler? Nope, not a chance. So shop for great deals on all your dry January beverages or other drinks and get them delivered to your door or blanket fort, maybe. Download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com. Must be 21 plus, not available in all locations. And don't forget to lotion up your elbows. They're looking a little dry.
Welcome back to the PowerCat podcast. Now, let's return to the GPC studios.
Welcome back to the PowerCat Questions podcast and an impromptu part 3, a third segment, because we can't shut up. And we've done almost an hour on basketball. Maybe it was an hour. And now we've got football. And you want football questions. I'm not going to lop them off the end and say, forget it. You deserve your football. That's the way it goes around here. We're sponsored by The Fridge. Our segment sponsors are Tanner's and Hilo. It's time for football. Cole, take it away.
From claws out, balls out. Is everything unusually quiet on the Western Front?
Yeah.
AKA the Western Front, the football program. We've barely heard who is moving on, who's coming back for the super senior season. No real news on vacant coaching positions and recruiting. It feels like you could hear a pin drop around the football program.
Chris Kleiman's working on his own schedule here. I mean, he doesn't feel an urgency here. There's 2 things going on. I've discussed this in another daily delivery. I know the math's hard to comprehend, but they're out of scholarships. They're up. They've got a few in hand. They want a quarterback. They need another transfer too. They're in trouble on the scholarship front. They have mismanaged their scholarships. They just have. Blue shirts are one of the dumbest things a coaching staff can do, unless it's a freshman like Anyudike Uzama, who's got obviously an upside but isn't quite there and is willing to walk in on practice day, first practice day, I'm here, I'd like to try out, I'd like to play football. Okay, here's a scholarship, but you're a blue shirt, and your scholarship starts now but doesn't count till next year. I don't even understand why the NCAA has this rule. Of all the weirdness the NCAA has, all the things they mandate, they let this happen. So guys like Cade Warner, I didn't realize until recently he was a blue shirt.
Correct.
He walked into the program, basically. I mean, you can talk to him. You can't have him recorded with an official visit, with an in-home visit. You can't have anything, quote, on the books of recruiting.
That was the dead period because of COVID when he was committed, if I remember right. So it didn't matter.
He just shows up and I'm a blue shirt. So he played this season, had a scholarship, but it didn't count in the 85. It will next season, whether he's here or not. And to me, he would be the best guy to bring back because his scholarship's already trashed. At least you'd be using it. They did this with a few guys. You cannot blue shirt guys with less than a full slate of eligibility.
That makes no sense.
Wow. And I guarantee you someone in our staff's going to get a call from football about this, but Fitz is being mean again. You can't do it. And this is why. And I hope they've learned their lesson. They've got some things in their recruiting profile that don't make sense what they're doing. It doesn't make sense. So anyhow, they can't go out and recruit a bunch of guys. They can't go out and take a bunch of transfers. You have to have a scholarship. You have to have one. So here's what's happening. Coaching front, I think they know who they want to hire. But remember, we're into the late signing period. That is coming up at the start of February. And no coach is going to leave their existing program right before signing day. So I think probably after signing day we might see movement. Maybe at the end of February when the contracts are up. Because those guys they released, Messingham and Ray, they're still paid through the end of February. That's their end of their contract. So maybe they don't want an overlap in contracts. I don't know. That's what's going on. Folks, I'm not worried about coaches. There's so many good football coaches. There's so many guys that probably can coach at this level that aren't just in the MAC or the WAC or the Mountain West, that are at the FCS level. We've seen it with the own staff that Chris Kleiman has. He's got guys that moved up and didn't really miss a beat. I'm not worried about that. I'm really worried about the scholarship count. And I think what they're waiting on is spring football. And we're going to see another rash of transfer portal guys. And people are going to freak out, not realizing it's the best thing possible. I don't want to call guys dead wood. They're just moving guys out so that and telling them, look, you're not going to play. Clyde Price, we love you. You love K-State, but you're not getting on the field. So they move them on. And that's what they need to do. Brutal, but it's true.
Tryouts.
Basically what it is. Spring football is going to be
exactly what it is.
Guys are going to be fighting for their lives, fighting for their scholarships.
And I will say this about the blue shirt Fitz, because if the plan is you're going to blue shirt a player and they're going to be on campus for 2 years, if Cade Warner had made that assertion, no matter what, I'm coming back next year. And we still don't know if he's coming back or not. I have a feeling, just based off of who the quarterback is going to be next year, he probably will be back. But that's the only way that you can, that at least in my mind, that it makes sense to blue shirt somebody who is a quote-unquote graduate senior, as if you know they will use their COVID year of eligibility to come back. That's the only way that it would make sense to
So
me.
essentially it's like deferring cap space to the future.
Right. That's exactly what it is.
That's exactly what it is. The rule makes no sense to me. Here's the NCAA that mandates conferences have to have divisions, and yet they'll let schools hand out imaginary scholarships that'll cost you in the future. It's bizarre. The whole thing's bizarre. I understand gray shirts. Gray shirts got bastardized by the Southeastern Conference because they like to cheat. But gray shirts are, the way Bill Snyder used them was nothing dirty or, shady about it. It was literally players who needed to heal up from high school injuries and wouldn't be able to contribute anything till the spring, who needed some grade work. Quentin Eccles, a former defensive tackle, was that. He was convinced he was going to pass the standardized test, which is now history pretty much. But they said, okay, if you can pass it in the fall, you can be here as a gray shirt. And he passed it in the fall and showed up as a gray shirt. Those I get. Those guys just delay the start of their college career as a full-time student one semester, and it uses that semester then for another season instead of a spring football that you don't compete in. I get that. I think it has value. But blue shirts, I think it's trash. I would never do it as a coach, ever. Unless there was something, I guess, really unique. This guy is really promising. We just don't have a scholarship right now, but we want him on the team, and he's willing to do this. I guess, if you could say Enudike Uzama is going to become this, and you know for sure, I'm all in on it. But you can't.
Next question comes from Contra Cat. What character?
That's a weird.
You like that word?
That's a weird question.
What characteristics do you want beyond buy-in with Kleiman/coordinator philosophy?
I'm sorry. What? What do we want here? Buy-in?
Can I answer the question?
Buying in to the.
How about success? If you see success on the field, like I'm assuming this is talking about Colin Klein, right?
Yeah, I don't have a very high standard. I think you should never lose a yard in the entire season. It doesn't seem to.
Basically, I think what this question is asking is, with the coordinators that Kleiman has, so Colin Klein and the position coaches, what characteristics do you want to see besides you personally believing in them?
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I just want a feeling of purpose to the play calling. Yeah, or to play designs. I watched the Chiefs play, and I hope Colin Steelen plays, because there's some things that they do that are really, really simple designs. I don't want to say simple, translatable designs for Kansas State to run. And they've gone into this now. We're going to fake the reverse. I'm going to fake the pass, the screen out here, and my running back is 3 yards up the field, and I'm going to hit him. And yeah, we've emptied the middle of the defense. We've got motion going right. We got a screen going left, and we've emptied the middle of the field by running receivers deep. It's a brilliant design. And then we dump it to Deuce Vaughn, who's now you've created a one-on-one with him, and I'll take Deuce in that 90% of the time. I mean, those things. If I see something in the structure, I consistently saw K-State run plays where at the line of scrimmage, this play isn't going to work.
It reminded me of watching the Steelers.
Oh, boy, you just went there, didn't you? Wow.
Big Ben at the helm looked like a Courtney Messingham offense. I'm being 100% serious. Short passes, running the ball, extremely predictable. First, second down, you're going to run the ball. Well, it's 3rd and 7. What are you going to do? Oh, we're going to try and run a little out route. We're going to try and run a slant route. If it works, great. If it doesn't, you got to punt. That's what it was like with Messingham, and that's what it was like watching the Steelers. So if we're sticking with the NFL analogies, that's on the top of my brain.
Leaving. Goodbye.
That's what I saw.
If you don't know, Brian Gilbert's a Steelers fan. And I don't fault him for being a Steelers fan. It's just not a happy place to be right now. At least he's not Riley Gates, a Cowboys fan. Didn't lose at home, but it's a higher seed.
But they got slimed.
Oh, yeah, they got slimed.
Steelers fans don't throw trash at the opposing players.
True.
Or the refs.
The referees.
It looked like they were throwing it at their own team.
Okay.
Well, that's what Dak thought. And then the reporter corrected him and said, never mind then. It's all good.
Another
Throw trash on the officials.
another team that knows about winning is in this next user's name. KSU Royals Cat, first-time question asker, long-time member, so welcome to the podcast. Of course, I mean the Royals, because who doesn't love watching the Royals do amazing things? If you would be the person responsible for creating the new divisions in the Big 12, how would you split up the teams? And do you divide teams thinking about Oklahoma and Texas, or are they just an afterthought?
That's funny. That's my Friday daily delivery.
OU and Texas should be separate divisions.
I personally...
So to get me up to speed here, it's going to be just 1 or 2 seasons with OU
Yeah,
Texas,
it'll be 2.
and then,
It'll be 2.
Okay.
As of now, they don't want to exit early and pay an outrageous amount.
Yeah.
I think they're under the impression they don't have to pay if they exit after the end of the contract. Well, that's not how the bylaws read. They're still going to pay. So there'll be a settlement on that, but they're not getting out of paying. But right now, because of the TV contracts, I think K-Ned has been calling this since the start, and I said, no, you're wrong, and I think he's right now, this won't end until after the 24 football season. The contracts for the Big 12 TV package are up in the spring of 25. Okay, so everyone says 2025, but it's the spring. Yeah. So it's after football and basketball of 24 or 25. So the new teams are apparently coming in 23, football. All sports, but football is what I'm talking about here. And then so that you'll have them 23 and 24 as 14 teams. Now, there's only one thing you can do with 14. You can divide it in half. And if you were able to do pods, which it's now been pointed out that you can't do pods, you have to have divisions if you're more than 12 schools and want to play a championship game. What does it matter, NCAA? Why are you regulating that? Why don't you regulate that you got to play 9 games in your conference if you have 12 or more teams? That's more important.
Boom.
Not how you divide up and decide. Pods allow you to schedule so that the 2 best teams will always play in the conference title game. And you're opposed to this? I mean, look at the Big Ten. So often, it didn't happen this year, so often it just gets completely out of whack. Well, it did kind of happen with Iowa, but I don't know. Anyhow, I would love to just put OU and Texas in a division with the 4 newbies and West Virginia, since they're kind of the newest of the olds, and say, have fun. You're going to go to these schools home and away in these next 2 years, and you're going to go to West Virginia. And the reason why I'm picking West Virginia too is it will be the most travel for OU and Texas. Now, what I don't like about that is that puts BYU basically with a bunch of Eastern teams. That's not fair. So maybe you don't do it to BYU, but I would not divide them up. I would make sure only one of them can play for the title. It would be a disaster, as people have pointed out at Wabash Station, for Oklahoma and Texas to meet in the Big 12 title game one time.
North and South. That's when I saw this immediately. What I thought
doesn't really work.
It's got to be an East-West split.
But
It'll be more North-South.
You can't separate OU and OSU,
but it's going to be more East-West.
You can if you maintain what the SEC has. Now, if you don't understand how the SEC does it, they have 2 7-team divisions, and you get 6 games in your division, and they have 1 annual opponent. You play them every year, and then they only play 8 games. So they only play 1 other team in the other division. So out of those
2 teams, they're in a 4-year college career, there are 2 teams in the SEC that you will not play if you go to an SEC school.
Makes no sense. I can design you a schedule with 16 teams, and you play every one round robin every 6 years. I mean, it's easy. That using pods, it's very easy, but you can't do it right now.
So if you did the North, if they decided to go North and South, it would be, if you're in the North, it'd be K-State, KU, Iowa State, BYU, West Virginia,
Cincinnati,
and UCF?
No.
If you want to keep Oklahoma and Oklahoma State together?
Well, but here's where I was going with that. It would be Oklahoma State is your answer there. And then you just schedule Oklahoma State will play Oklahoma. I mean, it's a 2-year schedule cycle.
Why couldn't that work?
It's a 2-year schedule cycle. So if you look back how the Big 12 did in the past when they were at 12, you played half the other division every year. Now it changes, the math changes, gets sticky at 7 and 7. Someone on the board posted that's the best way. It's the worst conference alignments, 14. Yeah. It's impossible to schedule this. You could easily say, even if you don't put the newbies in with Texas and Oklahoma, they damn well better schedule those teams home and away with those guys, even if they're out of division. They have to. I mean, first of all, it's vindictive, and I'm not above that. I just want it. I want vindictive behaviors.
You want them to suffer.
Want them to suffer. But also I want to raise the profile of those schools. Because every time Texas or Oklahoma plays one of these newbies, you're going to see it on TV over and over and over. And I want them to raise the profile. I want Cincinnati to go to Austin and win. I want these things to happen to totally wipe out the crap narrative of the Stuart Mandells of the world who are sniffing the jocks of the big boys and not paying attention to actual college football.
I think Stewart and Geoff would be friends.
Here's how I do it. BYU, Houston are in one division. UCF, Cincinnati are in the other division. Put West Virginia in the UCF, Cincinnati division. and probably Iowa State.
Right.
Those are the easy ones there, and then you just divvy up the rest. So you could, but the Texas ones, the 3 remaining Texas schools, or excuse me, it'd be 4 with Houston and BYU, and then you could put whoever. That'd be kind of tough if you put OU in the same one, or move OSU and OU separately, or do all the Texas schools plus BYU plus UCF. I don't know.
So Dennis Dodd
you could do a whole bunch of
is
stuff.
the one who wrote the story. I didn't even know the Big 12 AD snuck off to Vegas. And again, Gene, you've got my number. What is going on here? We could have been laying by the pool. I don't know. It's just I feel left out. Anyhow, they snuck off to Vegas to talk about divisions. And the one that is the working theory now that he published at CBS Sports, and Dennis did a great job with this, splits up Cincinnati and West Virginia. What the hell? I thought
That makes no sense.
I thought getting a bridge for West Virginia was a goal here. Are going to split them up? Now, maybe that's what they want. Those two schools don't like each other. I mean, it's going to be a great rivalry in the conference because they really don't like each other. It's like Missouri and KU, which is why you put them in a division for me. You play every year because there could be some heat there, but maybe they just want to kind of warm them up into the conference and not putting them in the same division. But it doesn't make sense to me. BYU's the ongoing problem here. Now you've got a West Coast island or Western island, and you got to solve that. But if you're dealing with 14 teams because Houston's coming in, the most sensible thing is put Oklahoma and Texas schools in a division. That's 7. It loads that division in many ways. You got Baylor and Oklahoma State all in the same division. Doesn't make sense. But geographically, that makes the most compact division, but then you end up with BYU in the same division as Central Florida and Cincinnati and West Virginia, and that's not very fair either.
You know what would be the most fun? Is if you created a blank schedule grid, and then you did a World Cup-style draw for the team positions. So each team's numbered, and each team on the grid has, Team 11 will host Team 14 on this date or whatever, and you just draw it out, and however it happens, it happens.
I'd love that, but Red River.
Screw it. Or just make that the one game that is the first game or whatever. Or you figure out which, you say this team's going to be Texas, this team's going to be OU, whatever, and then you can
I guess you could look at the weekend where they're supposed to play and know that they have to be two of these matched teams on that weekend. I'm so anxious to be done with the Red River rivalry and find out what happens to the scheduled conference after that. Since we're going along here, we're approaching an hour on a segment here. That's pretty impressive. Do you guys think they'll stop at 12? Or do you think they're going to you think they're going to be done? Gills?
Haven't they said they really like that? Haven't they said that 12 is the perfect number? I feel like I've read.
I heard they're trying to keep going.
Yeah, they've indicated they're going to look at it. They're going to find out 14 sucks. They just will.
Yeah.
I for the life of me, I don't know why the Big Ten. The 14 was better than 13. That's about all you can say for what the Big Ten's done.
Rutgers.
Oh. But 16 works so much better. But you got to have pods. You can't go 2 8-team divisions and play everyone in your division. That's 7 games. You're not a conference anymore. You're 2 conferences with cross scheduling. You have to find a way to make it work. But I agree in some ways 12 is the ideal number in today's world, but I'm not sure that's true in the future with the way media is working. We're just discussing the fact that KU K-State's on ESPN Plus. It's still shocking to us that a game that we consider a profile game, I'm not going to say high, it's a notable game in the conference. It's like Texas and Oklahoma, even in basketball. It's a notable game that they would put that on a streaming service. But we're seeing the shift in belief from the media rights holders that streaming is somehow a downgrade. They're not treating it that way, even though the fans and myself still kind of react to it that way. They're seeing the future of streaming that more and more games are going to be moving over here. It's just is what's going to happen. And so then you stop and think, well, in a streaming environment, there's no concern about available time slots. The game's streaming. You probably don't want it matched up against other teams in your conference. You don't want 5 games all streaming at the same time, but now you can just play a bunch of games and have a bunch of available inventory for a media rights holder. And the whole thing is inventory. It's all about inventory. And if you give them enough good games, if you bring in enough good teams and enough time slots,
Yeah.
a 16-team conference, I've said it over and over, you're kicking at noon in Morgantown and, their time, 11 a.m. here, and then you're kicking off at 9 p.m. our time in Provo or San Diego or Tempe or, whatever schools you bring in. You have filled every time slot on a Saturday. You can have Big 12 games wall to wall all day long. And the current product is by the end of the night, you only got Pac-12 or Mountain West going. Guys, that's a big hole in the market.
I think you're solving the world's problems.
That's a hole in the market. The marketplace wants more football on Saturday night. You can see it.
If you don't like streaming, just know that Apple has enough cash to buy ESPN probably 10 times.
Yep.
So get used to streaming and get used to Amazon Prime and Apple TV and whatever else.
I think in many ways,
Tesla. Elon Musk will start a network.
don't put it past him. He'll make a giant tunnel for the teams to travel in.
ELON instead of ESPN.
Ooh, add Elon. Isn't Elon's a school?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Elon Plus.
Elon Phoenix. Hey,
Here you go.
I don't even know what's
expansion. No, I think expansion comes down to what teams are available.
right.
How
I don't
does
wanna
the
force it.
How is if Arizona and Arizona State become available, if any of those Pac-12 schools,
Then you do it.
then I think you do it. And if it's more than 16, I think you still do it. 'Cause
I
think,
don't, but I see where you're going. Yeah.
Like, I mean, let's say if the Arizona schools plus Utah plus Colorado, and then if like the Oregon schools or the Washington schools are like, hey, we kind of would rather be with you guys, I'd expand the kitchen table, the
I would not.
lunchroom table.
And I've said this over and over. The culture in most of those Pac-12 campuses isn't about sports, isn't about rah-rah fandom. Their demographics have changed. Their direction as institutions has changed. I don't think they'll ever be good in sports consistently because it's just not important to them. It's just not.
Washington State?
No, Washington State.
No.
Washington State makes Kansas State look like a metropolis. I mean,
We are the Apple,
But
just the
they're
little
in-
one.
yeah.
They're in Eastern Washington. They'd get along with some Kansans.
No, they would. From a social standpoint, yeah, but they don't bring much to the table, just like you can argue Kansas State doesn't. But I think because of geography, Kansas State's more tangible as an entity. I don't know. I would take a few, but not all of them. But I'd keep you guys.
San Diego State's new stadium looks pretty nice.
San Diego State's intriguing. That is a riser. Now, you may not immediately translate that San Diego State is, Cincinnati. But what they're doing on that campus in a huge market, like a really desirable market, now without the NFL, I'm telling you, that's the one out there that isn't Power 5 that I am intrigued by.
It's like UCF when they built their stadium 13, 14 years ago.
Right.
That's what it is.
Maybe they need to name their stadium like the Bounce House.
The
Aztec House.
Ooh,
the jumping joint. I don't know.
that was okay. It was okay.
I tried.
Because it's
Padre
California. I get it. Because it's
Oh,
California.
I didn't even
I
go
get it.
there. Didn't even go there.
That's it for this podcast. We've gone way too long. You're not even listening anymore. Go to the fridge. You probably need it after this.
Thank you for listening to the Power Cat Podcast. Make sure you're subscribing to our show at Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts. Power Cat Podcast, all rights reserved, gopowercat.com.
It's the UEFA Champions League on Paramount Plus. Europe's top club soccer tournament. Champions versus champions. The best teams facing off in the knockout rounds. Magnificent! And it all takes place
while you're filling out financial reports at work, in the middle of your day, in the middle of your week. So use that second screen, call in sick, do whatever you got to do to tune in Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Nobody watches the UEFA Champions League like us. Knockout rounds begin February 13th on CBS and stream live on Paramount Plus.